We'll wait just a minute here to let people hop on. I see one. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to welcome you to the Virtual College Exploration for all Missouri students, sponsored by the Missouri Association for College Admissions Counseling and StriveScan. Thank you for joining us today. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the question and answer button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many different sessions happening, so be sure to check out all the full schedule at moacac.org. This presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week at the same website, moacac.org. I'd now like to turn it over to our presenter.
Thanks, Stacy. Appreciate it. Looks like we have one person with us this evening, other than myself and Stacy. What I'm here to do hopefully for Holland Duggan, if you have, or Dugan probably, if you have questions, I'd really rather pass on a formal presentation, but I want to make sure that you're as familiar with Nebraska as you need to be. I am one of two folks who work in the state of Missouri. I work with students primarily from Columbia and eastward in Missouri. And so I have kids from Kirksville all the way down to Cape Girardeau, and again, also from Columbia, north and south along that line. My name is Steve Held. I serve as technically my title is recruitment specialist, and which is a grand way of saying I actually live and work from my home. So I'm not talking to you from Lincoln, Nebraska this evening. I'm actually talking to you from Edwardsville, Illinois, which is where we live. I'm going to put my contact information up in chat if I can. And first of all, Holland, do you have any questions specifically that I can cover with you tonight about Nebraska, or some specific things that you need to know? Okay, so without further ado, since you've taken the time to be here, I might as well give you the whole dog and pony show. So I'm going to share my screen, which contains a series of slides that will address some very general pieces of the puzzle for us for admissions and for the university as a whole. So I will do that now. So give me just a second. I can make sure I do this correctly. So I'll go through some major high points about the university. As the flagship land grant institution for the state of Nebraska, we are first and foremost a Research One institution that allows us to confer degrees, which in almost all cases for our academic programs are terminal degrees, which sounds like a terrible thing, but it's actually a really good thing. A terminal degree is the highest degree you can achieve in your field. So that's something that we really pride ourselves on. We are a member of the Big Ten, and in Big Ten math, it doesn't make much sense because there are 14 institutions that are academically part of the Big Ten, and we are the smallest public institution in the conference. The only smaller institution in the Big Ten is Northwestern, and they're a private institution. So we always say we're the public. As a member of the Big Ten and as the flagship land grant part and university for the state of Nebraska, we have done our level best to remain as open access as possible. I'm not ashamed at all when I tell families and students that we really do have the most modest academic requirements for admission in the Big Ten. It speaks volumes to our open access commitment to the state of Nebraska first. about 35% of our students are out of state, leaving about 65% to Nebraskans. If you've ever been to Nebraska, if you ever think about going to Nebraska, and especially if you ever think about attending the University of Nebraska, what we really believe is the strongest suit for us is our hometown welcoming attitude. For many years, the Nebraska Tourism Bureau used Nebraska Nice as its slogan. That is not at all far-fetched if you were to come to Nebraska and visit Nebraska. My famous story is when I was hired by the university, which I've worked, this is my third recruitment season. I was out in Lincoln, and it was a very hot day for training. I had a few hours off, and I went and bought some polos and some t-shirts at Husker headquarters, which is located downtown. And I left there, and on my way back, I heard somebody yelling, hey, you come back, hey, you come back. And I was crossing a couple of one-ways that are multi-lanes. I'm from the greater St. Louis area, so if I'm in a place that I don't know well and someone's telling me that usually means walk faster. As it turns out, I left my debit card at the store after I made a purchase, and it was the manager chasing me down to give me back my debit card. So that was my first introduction to Nebraska Nice. As the smallest undergraduate institution in the Big Ten, some information that you can see about what we total student body, undergraduate, total people in the city of Lincoln, and that we're located in downtown. Because of our current living situation, we're not going to be playing host to 87,000 fans in Memorial Stadium for football games. And really it's a transformative piece of the puzzle for us, going back to that hometowniness, that there are no pro sports teams in the state of Nebraska. So University of Nebraska athletics are the end all be all, not only for a social piece, but also to really serve as a moral compass for the state of Nebraska, and a way of including all Nebraskans in this crazy journey to be a Husker. Collaborating and colliding. This is one of my least favorite slides, because this is somebody from the marketing team determining some really bold words about what we do and how we help folks and how we help students. In the collaboration process, education is different than when I attended college many years ago. And the idea of engagement, even in a COVID world where we have hybrid classes right now, along with in-person that are socially distanced, and then we also have some folks who are doing online learning. That the idea of collaborating and colliding is a positive thing. Where the collisions happen are in things like our Center for the Emerging Arts, which is a nexus of lots of different academic programs that used to be in traditional media arts. Now we're looking at animation, and we're looking at programming, and we're looking at coding, and we're looking at social media management, that really marries technology along with, so you have your science, you have your logic-y part, but it also marries the arts and the creative pursuits that create these collisions, which we think are real positive experiences, putting pieces together that maybe ordinarily wouldn't have been put together. We offer over 150 academic programs. I do not have them all memorized, but running the gamut from, sure, we have a business program, but we also have actuarial science, and we have animal sciences, and we have statistics, and we have things like emerging media arts, forensic sciences, huge gamut of coursework. Colleges and universities, I'll say universities, are typically arranged into colleges, which that's the way we are. So the College of Arts and Sciences, the College of Business, College of Engineering, the College for Agricultural Sciences and Natural Resources, which we call CASNR, C-A-S-N-R, It's home to even our hospitality management program. So it gives you an idea of the breadth of our offerings. Connecting to your career path. As the father of a current college senior, she does not attend University of Nebraska, but she attends a regional institution in the greater St. Louis area. You know, I'm concerned about those career paths and connections. We start it pretty early for most of our students, and that is when you go through orientation. Before you even step foot in a classroom or walk into a virtual setting, we want to make sure that you're getting connected with academic resources, with career, and even at the student worker level, that you're having meaningful conversations and interactions with your faculty members early on. What happens when you do need help? And college students, as late teenage years, are probably some of the worst about saying, yeah, hey, I need help. So when the flag needs to be hoisted that you need help, balancing your academic life with your social life, your psychological life, your overall well-being. We offer one-on-one academic coaching for all majors at all times. And we want you to get those connections made, because it's the connections that help you. Not only is the academic program that you're going to graduate from or become a product of important, but it's also important how to use resources. We have them. And I think the University of Nebraska, based on my experience, is actually pretty aggressive about how we keep tabs on students in some ways that you maybe can't in a really big academic environment. All right, so all the graduation stories that you hear, you know, yes, we have Warren Buffett, who is a member of, a storied alum of our business school. But Huskers do big things. Just because you are an adult or a parent or a student, innovating is an incredibly important part of what our university is doing. Huskers do big things. Few examples. Let's talk about our construction management students and our civil engineering students. They have been working on grants funded by the National NTSA, the National Transportation and our Highway Association. They're working on barriers that absorb energy in car crashes. We have also out in our Kastner programs, our agricultural programs, a really cool thing where we're pretty much the testing site for all tractors in the United States. Hey, we're in Nebraska, we do farming, you know? And we also involve our mechanical engineers in that. We're doing some groundbreaking research on remote farming, where you can have programming your farm equipment and machinery. Okay, all right, Holland, we can address that. Since you're the person in the room, I want to make sure that we get those things addressed. So I'm going to be unsharing this screen and sharing another one if you don't mind. So give me just a second, because I also want to talk about the emerging media arts. So give me a second, and I'm going to go. Bring up a web page so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm going to come back, bring myself back for a second, and then I'm going to share my screen. Johnny Carson, who was on late night television before Jimmy Fallon, before Jay Leno, it was Johnny Carson. The Carson family, Johnny Carson is an alum of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And for many years, he supported, and his family's foundation supported, our film and television production. They still do. But 5 years ago, the university approached the Carson family and the Carson Foundation to see if they would help us make the next step technologically. And that is the Carson Center for the Emerging Arts. As I mentioned earlier, that is a nexus. It's not just film production. It's not just traditional acting and stagecraft and things of that nature. It really is getting that collision of technology that's generating media. And how I define media is really different than how a modern student does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen real quick, and we can address some specific questions about the Carson Center. I'm taking you to the website. It's arts.unl.edu Carson-Center. And the Carson Center is, to say it's innovative is going to sell them way short. Okay, so the BFA, or Bachelor of Fine Arts in Emerging Media Arts, covers a huge area, and you have two areas of emphasis. So when we think of a regular major, you're usually having one area of emphasis. In the Emerging Media Arts, we want you to have two, because we want you to be well-rounded and innovative. So the two areas that you can choose from would be any one of these: cinematic arts, virtual production, immersive and interactive media, story, experience design, sonic arts, sensory media, or data plus art. So you're going to have two areas of concentration chosen from one of those, or two of those areas. Core, which I'm going to bore you to death. I'm not going to take you through all of that, but this is your actual coursework. So once you get to that. But what's really important about this program is it involves two stages of admission. First is general admission to the university, which we are already admitting students to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And we are also already admitting students to, awarding scholarships, okay? So let me stop there. Do you have any questions so far? Please bug me, because you've got me for the entire time. Right, I see some popping up. Okay, great. So if you do, please bring in. So first, because we're already admitting students to the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, our application is open. I strongly encourage students at this point, and I've gotten my bosses to sign off on this. If you can use the University of Nebraska undergraduate admission application, please do. It has, and we ask for the specific information that we need to make a general admissions decision and a general scholarship decision on you, or of the student. Emerging Media Arts does require a second application, okay? And that's why I'm on this page now. That application to the Carson Center is due by January 15th. I usually never talk about deadlines for anything at the University of Nebraska, because we admit on a rolling basis. This is one of the very few programs that we're going to ask for a secondary application for consideration into the Carson School. We can admit you into the College of Arts and Sciences as an undecided student, but the Carson Center has its own secondary application. Since you're probably still in high school, we want to see a few basic things, okay? We want to see at least a 3.0 GPA, preferably. Big question that's come up lately is, are you test optional? We are absolutely 100% test optional. So if you've not done the ACT or SAT as of yet, don't let it stop you from applying. The ACT or SAT is only one part that we're going to be considering. but we're not requiring it to be submitted to us. So let's say, for instance, you're a 3.6 GPA for general admission to the university. You self-report your test scores to us, and I'm sorry, your grades to us. You don't have to send us your test score. So let's say you're a 3.6 GPA. You live in Missouri. You're probably going to get at least $13,000 in scholarship to the university, to attend the university, okay? 3.8, typically it's going to be at least 15,000. So we won't run out of scholarships. This is where I get in trouble. We will be admitting and awarding scholarships on a rolling basis for general admission. For this process, for Emerging Media Arts, you will need to send a secondary application. I'm staying on this page that if you want to take all the screenshots you want, that web address is the most important. And I'm going to post that back into the chat. So you have it. So it is should be in the answered box. But that's what you're going to be using. If you're looking to do that, I think my internet just had a hiccup. So I'm still trying to catch up with you. Okay, I think I'm still alive right now. So I'm going to go back one more time to that web page. So I can share my screen again and talk to you a little bit more about what's happening. The Center for Emerging Arts has application steps. I don't like that they have this many steps, but they do, okay? Again, it tells you right there, undergraduate admissions office, do that first. That's applying to us. Indicate on your application, pre-emerging media arts as your first choice major. Complete that application, and then you're also going to have to do a little bit more work. We do not require an essay for general admission, but they want a story from you of 500 words or less, a review of a creative piece, 250 words or a minute or video, creative work, things that you've done. That could be electronic, that could be music, that could be lots of different things, something that you create, a resume, what you do, it could be your student activities, it could be lots of things. Open access. And then reference letters. These are important. These don't have to specifically target things that you made or created, but they're just to attest to what you, that this is something you really are interested in and want to do. And then finally, with the rest of this is the required tasks with a little bit more breakout and a little more depth. What you do, how you do it, what you can submit. Tell you what, I've seen some really neat stuff, really creative stuff from students that have talked about what makes them motivated, what makes them creative, how they're inspired or how they've inspired others to do things like that. So I take some time to look at this webpage. This is going to be your guide. Again, apply to us first, and I'd be happy to, if you want to email me afterward, I'd be happy to send you an application fee waiver code. We've been given permission to do that for these events that we're doing in the evenings. So let me see. Yes. So job placement or internship opportunities. The Carson School for the Emerging Arts is still pretty new. But we, at this point, are working actively with folks in places like Pixar, in places like Hudl, H-U-D-L, which is also a media and athletic analytics platform that the university was invented at the university, actually by 3 business school graduates. So yes, you will be. I can pretty much tell you that they're going to want every student in emerging media arts to do at least 2 internships. Internships are not like they used to be. Internships aren't you volunteer and you make coffee all day. These are going to be things that are really ingrained and crucial pieces of your major in your area of academic study. So yes, those are available. Something else I'd like to do, Holland, is if you can contact me, I'd be also happy to turn you over to the folks that are in the department. They're very enthusiastic. They love to talk to students. So we can make those kind of personal connections from you too. Other questions? I'll keep the chat box up so we can go through that. I'm going to finish up a couple of things going back to the PowerPoint that I was talking about. Application for admission, really easy, very easy. I mean, it literally will take you about 35, 40 minutes to complete your application in total for general admission. Admissions requirements. These are the parts that students are asking about because of this test optional. I'm really happy that I think the university has landed in a very positive position on being test optional. We want your admissions criteria to be to your best advantage. For instance, I threw out some GPAs earlier, but let's just say that you did take the ACT or SAT. Since if you're from Missouri, you're probably taking the ACT. Let's say you took it, all right? And let's say you got a 23, just to throw a number out there. But let's say your GPA is 3.6, all right? I would tell you, and I would tell your counselor at your school, I would prefer that you not list a test score at that test score. It won't hurt you from being admitted, but you'll be considered for better scholarships with that 3.6 GPA than you would with just a 23 ACT. However, let's say we've admitted you and we've already awarded you a Ruth Leverton scholarship, and then you take the SAT and you kill it and you get a 29. Well, then you should send us that score because we will allow you to bonus up. We will allow you to go from one scholarship level to another if that ACT or SAT is positive. Okay, let's say, again, you don't do better, then you don't ever have to send us your test score. It's pretty simple. And I really like the way we've adopted these. You know, I think it's really advantageous for the student. So run with it while you can. I think the world has changed a lot, which we obviously know that. But in terms of ACT and SAT, with everything that's happened and how it's happened with this simultaneity, or things happening simultaneously, that it's really made people go, wow, how are we using these test scores? Why are we using these test scores? Are they really effective? I've been around higher ed a long time, and I've told students this for years. Your high school GPA is 6 times better a predictor of your college success than your test score. So I'll leave it there. Scholarships, we say February 1st deadline. we award academic scholarships on a rolling basis. So if you're going to be doing this, earlier you apply, the sooner you're going to find out. But we will be awarding scholarships throughout the process. February test date. This slide just sits in this thing like an old dead bird now. We will allow students, or had allowed students, to keep sending us test scores, as I mentioned earlier, to help them improve their scholarship potential award. This is still officially a policy for us, or a guideline, but I can tell you that I know we'll see students taking it farther away. If you are a senior, time's ticking, and in 4 days, the FAFSA goes live. For parents, if it's your first time, it makes your palms sweat. For students, you're like, I have no idea what to do. Get your FAFSA filed on or after October 1st as soon as you can. Now, if it's October 3rd or 5th or 7th, that's fine. But to get it out of the way sure helps. You can send, or you can ask to send your FAFSA information, I believe up to 10 schools now at one time. It's not as onerous as it used to be, because there's some new data linkage between the IRS and the Department of Ed that makes it a lot more accurate. So strongly recommend, if you are a senior, that you and your family need to do your FAFSA as soon after October 1st as you can, as realistic as you can. May 1 is, well, until this past year, was the national date of decision. We actually moved it back to June 1st, as most universities. But typically by May 1 is when we want to let us know, hopefully, that you're coming to Nebraska. And most students let us know sooner than that, but May 1 is, technically speaking, the last date that we can award. But this past year was odd, and so we moved it to June 1st, and we may be doing that. Last but not least, so we're 8:30. I want to have plenty of time in case there are other questions. We are hosting on-campus visitors. COVID has restricted the numbers of visitors that we can have at any given time, which is a good thing. But we are doing campus visits. And I know because I helped a family register for October 30th, just this past week. So go visit if you can. I would really recommend the Essential Husker Experience, the EHE, as we're calling it in the business, but get out to campus. We have lots of virtual opportunities, such as I'm doing tonight. It's completely worth your while, and especially if you're interested in something like the Carson Center, you would be able to meet with them. So I highly recommend that you get out there. All right, the proverbial and dreaded got questions. I think I've covered everything. So I think I got through everything. I just didn't want to. It's interesting when you only have one person online and you can actually focus on the major. The Emerging Media Arts program is so cool, and I'm so old and not so cool. Almost everything they do is based on creativity. So for instance, when I was there last January, the students were actually hosting, they have a huge 70-inch projection panel television in the lounge, and the students were actually having Mario Kart races. And they were doing it for class because they wanted to see how many people stopped by these giant windows that are there. They did it as kind of like an experiment, and people would literally sit or stand and watch the kids do Mario Kart. And they were doing research on it and tried to predict how many people would come by. So that's the kind of neat thing that it does. So please get in touch with me. I'm happy to help you in any way I can. And last but not least, I'd love to waive that application fee. Save you $45. Oh, okay. Well, I appreciate that because I will tell you that I'm usually not very good at my job. I mean, I think I'm okay at my job, but I always leave something out. So I'm glad you feel like I covered all of the bases.
Okay, I think our participant left, so I'll just share the final screen for the wrap up. All right, thank you for joining us. When you close this window, there will be a link to a very quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback you can provide. Also, this was just one of many sessions being hosted, so be sure to sign up for additional sessions at moacac.org. In about a week, you'll be able to find this session's recordings as well as all the other sessions recordings at moacac.org. Thank you. And thank you, Steve, for
You're welcome.
your presentation. All right, have a good evening.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stop share and